This is a story about a boy's journey during the demon invasion. Story made by Koki Monster. Please enjoy. I wasn't born under the blazing comet that marked the Chosen One's arrival. I didn't wield the holy blade, said to glow with the light of the gods. I wasn't the one destined to fulfill the prophecy, not by birth, not by divine decree. But none of that mattered to me. The kingdom was crumbling and someone had to do something. The demon lord's armies were everywhere, spreading fire and death like a plague. Village after village was reduced to ash, and our people fled in droves. The chosen hero, Arden, was supposed to be our salvation. He carried the holy blade, blessed by the gods themselves, and the prophecy declared that he would vanquish the demon lord and bring peace to the world. He was said to be the hero of heroes, but months after he departed on the journey to defeat the demon lord, Arden had vanished. Months passed without word of him, and the people's hope turned to despair. Meanwhile, I fought. I wasn't a warrior. I was the son of a blacksmith in a village too small to even have a name on most maps. My father's old rusty sword was the only weapon I had. When the demons came, I picked it up out of desperation and stood between them and the people I loved. I had no training, no grand destiny. All I had was stubbornness, and somehow, it kept me alive. I fought as hard as I could to protect the village, but it wasn't enough. In the chaos, people fled, leaving everything behind. I barely escaped with my life as the monsters raided the village, slaughtering everyone in sight. We ran to the cities, hoping for safety. But when we arrived, the gates were already packed with refugees, all of them victims of similar fates. There was no room for us. With nowhere else to go, we moved to the open fields near the city walls, but there was no safety to be found. Despite being so close, the guards couldn't protect us. The demons roamed freely, making us easy targets. We had no choice but to leave, seeking shelter deeper in the woods where other refugees had already gathered. With the constant demon attacks, the camp slowly turned into a small village of tents. For now, we were hidden from the demons, but every day, we live in constant fear, never knowing when they will find us. Unlike the cities, we had no walls, no soldiers, no weapons, just families who had lost everything. We were just trying to survive. It was already hard just doing that. But from time to time, word would spread of another village under attack. Fear gripped everyone, paralyzing them into silence. No one dared to act. I begged the other men in the camp to help, but they stayed hidden, too afraid to move. So I went alone, each time hoping I could make a difference. But every time I went, I found nothing had changed. The village still burned, families torn apart, lives lost. Each time I returned, my body was always filled with cuts and wounds. No matter how much I fought, it felt like I made no difference. I couldn't save anyone. I could feel the weight of my failure with every step, but somehow, I couldn't bring myself to quit.
Alexis, you're going to get yourself killed,
Mira told me one night. We were huddled by a small campfire, the meager warmth barely cutting through the cold. Mira had been my closest friend since we were children, though she often acted more like an older sister. Her eyes, usually sharp and defiant, were tired now, her face pale from too many sleepless nights. "If I don't fight, then who will?" I said, running a whetstone over the edge of my battered sword. She sighed, brushing her auburn hair back from her face.
That's not your job, Alexis. The gods chose Arden for this. He's the hero who's supposed to defeat the demon lord. Not you.
Her words stung, though I knew she meant them out of concern. "Where is the hero then?" I asked, sharper than I intended. "How many more villages have to burn while we wait for him to show up?" Mira didn't answer. She didn't have to. We both knew the truth. The hero wasn't coming. That night, I couldn't sleep. I had talked about fighting back, but deep down I was terrified. Despite everything I said about the hero, I had still hoped, secretly, that the hero would save us. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Every night, the faces of my loved ones haunted me. I see their lifeless eyes, heard their desperate cries while I cowered in fear. I was the reason they died. I ran away when they called for help. I was too afraid to stay, and because of that, they died. Every time I picked up my sword, it wasn't out of bravery. It was guilt. Guilt for abandoning them when they needed me. I was trying to atone for my sins, but deep down, I knew it wasn't enough. I couldn't take it anymore. I had lost all hope. I was going to end it all. I slipped out of my tent with a dagger, trying to keep my thoughts hidden. I didn't want to worry everyone, but I can't keep going like this. I made my way into the forest, searching for a quiet place to end it all. But then, I heard it. A quiet, muffled sobbing. Someone was crying. It was soft, as though the person wanted to keep it a secret. I followed the sound, and it led me to Mira's tent. I listened, my heart sinking. It was her. I had never seen Mira cry before. She was always so strong, so compassionate. Even after losing her family, she always put others first, comforting them, making sure they were all right. But now I see the truth. She had been suffering alone all this time. She was always the one holding everyone else together. She had lost more than I ever had, and yet she kept going, hiding her own pain behind a smile. And here I was, lost in my own self-pity, thinking only about myself. I am truly a pathetic man. That night, I made my decision. If no one acted, the suffering would never end. She had always helped me, but this time, I will be the one to help her. Before dawn, I packed my meager belongings, a crust of bread, a water skin, and my father's sword, and left the camp. The Demon Lord's fortress loomed to the north, hidden in the jagged peaks of the Morning Mountains. No one had dared to approach it, save for the chosen hero, but I couldn't wait any longer. The journey was brutal. I crossed rivers swollen with rain, scaled cliffs that cut my hands to ribbons, and faced beasts that could have torn me apart with a single swipe. Every step forward felt like a test, not just of my body but of my will. I thought of my parents who had died in the first wave of demon attacks. I thought of the villagers who had lost everything but still took care of me. And I thought of Mira, who was always hiding her pain behind a smile for my sake. I have to do this for them, for everyone. The hero may be gone, but I'm still here. By the time I reached the Demon Lord's fortress, I was barely standing. My armor was dented and filthy. My sword was chipped so badly it looked more like a club. But I didn't care. I wasn't here to look the part of a hero. I was here to finish what needed to be done. The fortress was a nightmare. Black spires clawed at the sky, and the air reeked of sulfur and blood. Inside, the halls were silent, save for the distant echo of my boots on the cold obsidian floor. The silence was worse than any battle. It felt as if the fortress itself was watching me, waiting to strike. Suddenly, the demons emerged from the shadows, encircling me from every direction. With a roar, I charged forward, cutting through the monsters without hesitation. I didn't have time to be afraid. I couldn't afford to. One after another, they fell beneath my blade, their blood staining the ground. I pressed forward deeper and deeper into the fortress, and then I found him. The throne room was vast, its walls glowing with an eerie red light that pulsed like a heartbeat. The Demon Lord sat on a throne of bone and flame, his massive form radiating power. His skin was blackened like charred wood, and his eyes burned like molten gold. When he saw me, he laughed, the sound rumbling through the chamber like thunder.
You are not the chosen one.
His voice deep and mocking.
Do you truly believe you can defeat me with that pathetic blade and no divine power?
I don't need divine power, I said, stepping forward. My hands shook, but my voice held firm. I'm not here because of a prophecy. I'm here because someone has to be. The demon lord's laughter grew louder, shaking the very walls of the fortress.
Very well, mortal. Show me what your determination is worth.
I charged at him. The fight was chaotic. The demon lord's claws tore through the air like blades, and his magic scorched the ground wherever it touched. I dodged and struck where I could, using every ounce of strength and every trick I'd learned from years of desperation. But it wasn't enough. His strength was overwhelming. He knocked me to the ground, my sword flying from my grasp. Pain shot through my body as I hit the cold stone floor. The demon lord loomed over me, his eyes gleaming with a cruel amusement.
You were brave.
Raising a claw for the final blow.
But bravery alone will not save you.
As his claw descended, I saw it, the hilt of my broken sword lying just within reach. I lunged for it, gripping it tightly despite the pain in my hands. With a desperate cry, I drove the jagged remains of the blade into his chest. His roar shook the fortress. The shards of the blade began to glow, not with the divine light of the gods, but with something else. A raw and fierce glow, born from sacrifices, losses, and defiance. A fierce glow, but warm to the touch. And then I understood. The prophecy had said the hero would defeat the demon lord, but it had never said anything about the chosen one. Being a hero wasn't about wielding divine power or fulfilling a destiny written in the stars. It was about standing up when no one else would, about fighting for what mattered, no matter the cost. At that moment, I had become the hero. The light spread, consuming the demon lord in a blaze of pure, unrelenting will. When it faded, he was gone. The fortress trembled around me, cracks spreading through its walls as the darkness began to collapse. I stumbled outside just as the first rays of dawn broke over the mountains. The air was cold, but for the first time in what felt like years, it was clean, pure. I fell to my knees. It was finally over. I couldn't help but laugh at the prophecy. Everyone was relying on the hero Arden to save them, as if he was the only one who could do anything. So much for the title Hero of Heroes. Suddenly, from beneath the ground, the remaining demons erupted, ambushing me from all sides. I barely had the strength left to lift my arms, let alone fight. My arms felt like they were made of stone, and all I could do was collapse to my knees. This was it. It was over for me. I was scared. I thought I had won. I thought life was finally going to be perfect, that I would return home to the cheers of everyone, be welcomed, and live a peaceful life. A hero isn't supposed to die like this. I didn't want to die yet. Please, someone help me. Just as the demon launched his jaws at me, I heard the sound of footsteps and a flash of light cut through the darkness. It was Arden, the hero of heroes, his holy blade glowing brightly as he cleaved through the remaining demon army like they were nothing. The demons fell one after another, their shrieks echoing through the air. I blinked in disbelief, still on the ground.
You all right there, buddy?
Arden looked down at me, his expression calm, almost smug. "Where the heck have you been?" I muttered, barely able to lift my head.
What do you mean?
He said, raising an eyebrow.
I'm fulfilling my duty, of course.
I gritted my teeth. The job's already done. I've already defeated the demon lord. So much for the hero of heroes. He smiled, his eyes gleaming with a strange mix of pride and amusement.
No, you're right,
he said with a shrug.
I'm the hero of heroes. Didn't I just save you? Hero?